Hi, Charlene. Hello, everybody. Okay, people are hopping on. I'm going to mute. I'm just going to use my speaker view. Um, and hello, everybody. Glad you're here with me. We're going to talk about my name's Michelle Grace Lesserard, if you haven't been with me before. I'm from marketingforhealers.com and also michellegrace.com. I'm a shamanic astrologer and teacher, and I've been teaching this new moon teleclass for the last 15 years online. Prior to that, I was more in paper and newsletter. And I just want to say, it's intense out there, people. um, and so I hope I get to talk about that and explain a bit. Listen, if you're listening to me and you've never been with me before, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to share a bit about what the new moon in Libra on October 8th, is about Libra, the energy of Libra, how it may be learning you. New moons are always about shadow issues. It's a seed of possibility. You're inviting possibility into your life, and new moons activate that possibility in a really wonderful, rich way. And when you show up consistently for 90 days with me, that's your invitation to show up for 90 days each new moon with me. By Your life will start to shift. What happens when you deal or you invite the moon energies in? What starts to happen is all the ways that you've been holding yourself hostage start to shake off, and the new you shows up. That's why I call this new moon, new me, because what's happening is you're actually showing up in a new way, and you can clear stuff really quick. One of the reasons why I do these new moon calls is that I was working as a shamanic practitioner with clients, and I wanted a process where the person could start to enter into their own sacred soul retrieval process without, with me sort of facilitating, but by using the energy of the moon. And so my teachers, my shamanic teachers in non-ordinary reality, gifted me this process. And so I'm teaching it today, and we're going to talk about the energies of what's going on. So, seems like there's a lot going on in the universe right now. And I find it so fascinating because last week, after the testimony on Thursday, I turned on my computer and planning to talk about what was up for me and have it be a teaching moment. And I started to share, and the energy was so intense within me and around me. The internet kept cutting out, and I was like, okay, let me reboot it, let me come back. And then it cut out again. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm not supposed to talk about it right this second. So I spent the day asking, what's here? What wants to be shared? And what really came forward was about the Venus retrograde. And so if you haven't listened to my Venus retrograde call, no worries. I would suggest that you listen to that first if you're listening in later, not being here live. But that will sort of set up the template of what this new moon is about, because Venus is going retrograde on October 5th. My calendar's up there, so if you wonder why I'm looking up, it's not that I'm connecting with Spirit. I already am connected with Spirit, but what's happening is I'm looking up at my calendar on the wall. And October 5th, Venus goes retrograde in Scorpio. She's going to go in and start to move backwards. She's going to move through Scorpio and go back into Libra. And here we are with a new moon in Libra. And she's going to retrograde from October 5th to November 16th. And Libra and Scorpio work together, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But you want to be aware that the last time Venus went retrograde in Scorpio was 2010. So there may be some stuff come up around 2010. It takes her 8 years to make a full circle and come back to Scorpio again, and then go into retrograde. So that's important before we even kick off. And if you haven't listened to the Venus in retrograde audio video that I created, it will be on the Libra sheet or the Libra page when you get this. So if you're listening and you start to listen to this, you know, you can go in and listen to the Libra retrograde first and then listen to this. So we've been riding the rapids. Rapids, people. Big water energy. For the next 90 days, we are collectively moving through a gauntlet. And we are clearing up stuff from eons of energy. And we're going to be faced with our own inner trauma, and how we are moving through the rapids of it, and also how we are projecting it on somebody else. And I want to talk about the energy of projection in a minute. So let me start to share the screen because it's important. Okay, so let me make this a little bit smaller. Okay, so we have the Libra mysteries, and the Libra mysteries are about the art of relating, the relationship. Really, bottom line is Libra asks you, who am I in relationship to you, and how have I lost power? Either I've given my power to you, or I've given my power away, or through some sort of abuse, you may being left feeling like you've given your power away. And so Libra rules all things relationships. But it's not only relationships with people, it's also relationships with money and abundance. Because here's the thing, Libra, the sign Libra, and Taurus are both ruled by the energy of Venus. And Venus is a heart chakra energy. So back in May, when we had the Taurus new moon, it may have been in April, but when we had the Taurus new moon, I asked you to focus on what had heart and meaning for you. Where were you undermining your value? The way you charge, the way you are with people. How are you undermining you? And could you course correct, and could you do it a different way that lights you up rather than takes you apart? And so the Libra mysteries for me are about, how am I showing up in relationship? Where am I blinded by something? Where am I so stuck in my own certainty that I no longer understand where I begin and where you leave off? In other words, I'm so mixed up in the energy of you, I don't know who I am anymore. And certainly when you experience any sort of abuse, you are muddled and mucked up until you decide you're going to heal from that experience. And then what happens is you place a lot of value on being heard and being seen and validating your perspective that this happened to you, and I'm not undermining the drama of it, but there's a drive to be seen and heard. And that's what we're seeing right now. There's a drive to be seen and heard like there's never been before. And that water energy, that big water energy, is about the emotions that have been contained by not being seen and not being heard. And when you're not being seen and not being heard, if you see this little like chaos in the center, that's actually what starts to go on in the body. That there's an unraveling happening right now that is profound, is deep, it's collective. You may have a piece of it, but it's certainly not all yours. And so the caution is to be aware of how am I getting hooked into this and how am I limiting my creativity because I have to participate because I wasn't seen and heard by somebody in my family, my spouse, my significant other. How am I still a walking wounded person because I didn't really understand the art of relating? And I either merged too quickly, merged too much, and left pieces of myself behind. One of the main things I ask clients when they start to work with me on a shamanic level is what pieces of you did you leave sitting out at the curb in order to be in that relationship? And raise your hand if you haven't done that. I certainly have done it. You know, I remember back in the day when my own healing experience where I started to remember the abuse. I was, my husband had married a very practical businesswoman who knew what she wanted and knew how to get it. And here I was, this muddle, it looked like this chaotic thing in the middle. I was a muddle of massive emotions, meaning that I was firing off anger, sadness, grief, all of them together, trying to get clear of what had happened to me. And there came a time when the two of us could not be together. He actually said, you're too spiritual for me. And I went, fine, there's the door. Have a good time, leave. I will be the best damn ex-wife you ever had. But I understand. And what happened in that experience is that no surprise, it came about 3 months after my own soul retrieval training. No surprise that during that training, I reactivated the artist within and started creating like a banshee. But I had through the house all these scattered art projects for the last 20 years that suddenly, when he left, I brought in 2 sawhorses and an old door from the garage, and I just took over the whole house because I was going to create what I wanted to create because I needed creativity back in my life. And so I was pulling all the old art projects from everywhere and making decisions. Did this serve me today? Is this something I want to continue on? And when that starts to happen, people are upset because you're changing the way you've been with them. And they will react and respond. You certainly saw it last week on Thursday when Dr. Blasey Ford said, I'm in terror here. I'm going to share my story. And then everybody that didn't want her to share the story was coming out like a banshee saying, shut up. Shut up. We don't want to hear this. We don't want to know this. We want to keep on going status quo. They want to stay in the chaos of that. And you know what? That's fine for this 10 seconds, this 10 minutes. But here's the thing. You have been on a healing journey forever and a day, and you do not have to stay in the chaos of this moment. You have creative tools that you have gathered along the way that serve you, whether it's shamanic, whether it's EFT, whatever your way and modality is. It's time for you to pull it out and say, how do I want to serve this to the people who are coming to me? And not get caught up in the trauma drama of what this whole unfolding is about. Because listen, we all elected to be born during this time. We all have a piece of the puzzle. We all have something that we've been in relationship with that has a story to tell, whether it's good, bad, and ugly. There's something there that wants to be seen. But the caution at this new moon is to not get caught up in the fog of expectations of what you should, could, and would have been doing if this didn't happen. For pity's sakes, people, it happened for a reason. And whatever way, whatever modality that you elected to heal from it is perfectly fine for you. You do not need to get into the trauma drama of whether my healing modality works or your healing modality works. Here's the thing, they all work. They all work. But the caution at this new moon is to not get caught up in other people's projections and to understand that you have healed a lot of stuff and what wants to be created from that place. And that means the trauma drama, the collective trauma drama, the chaos of it can start to serve you in a way that is both expansive and creative. So chaos happens when we invoke more creativity. And we are certainly in a time of creativity. Chaos is messy and scary and big and bold. And when it grabs you, you know it. And we are all being grabbed at the moment. And the task is to own it. Own the direction of your choice. Where you think you're going wants to shift, follow it, say yes to it, and embrace the fucking chaos. What if your dream is bigger and bolder than you've ever allowed in before? What if this is fuel to push you to the next place? Not boo-hooing all over the place. It's standing in the elevator and saying to a senator, don't you look away. I have something to tell you, and I want you to hear me now. And even though my voice shakes, I'm going to say it. Now, one of the things around the energy of this is anger. And there are many levels of anger. There is the fresh anger of you experiencing something and then it being squished and contained in your body. With a trauma drama that's never heard, never seen. And when that comes out, it is like an eruption coming out of a volcano. And I remember one time in therapy, I was the person standing there for the 6 weeks and everybody was doing their emoting and blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting there just kind of sitting at the side and the teacher said, the therapist said to me, you're on next week. And I was like, what the hell is she talking about? I didn't know what she was talking about. And it was so fascinating because the next week she put me through this psychodrama, which, you know, there's other ways to do it now, but at the time psychodrama was the thing. And she started doing certain things to my body, and energetically I rose up. I was not limiting anything I said. And when I came out of it, I looked around the room and everybody was plastered against the wall. Everybody. And I thought, oh my gosh, look, like here's meek, mild Michelle who talked like this. And here they are plastered against the wall. And I'm sitting there, I'm kind of laughing to myself, but I'm like, I'm amazed, like the power of your anger when it erupts fresh and new is catalyst for chaos and creativity. Don't negate it. Don't negate it. Find somewhere you can share it. Find somewhere that's safe, that you can express it. Find somewhere where you can move it forward. Now there's another type of anger that is righteous anger. And listen, Libra rules that. Libra is ruled by Venus, and Venus says, I have done everything in my power to try and get you to come to center, and now I'm going to war. I'm going to war. And that war is a righteous war. That war is for the earth. That is for women and children. That war is to take things that are so shut down within our consciousness right now and say, enough is enough, and I'm a stand for this, and this is how I'm going to create, and this is what I'm asking you to do. But when you're in that place, you have to make really sure that you are not projecting your own crap onto somebody else, because you have to be a healed container for that anger. I'm not negating other people's anger, but what I am saying is last week I was really challenged to go, is this mine or is this theirs? What do I want to create with this? Yes, I'm in it again, but I also have tools to get me out of it. And what could I create in this 10 seconds, this 10 minutes, that would be a service to the bigger picture? And so the Venus retrograde audio was created when I came on and I said, I'm going to create a Facebook video on Monday, and then that that teaching came out. And so your highest calling lies in the direction of chaos. Own it, whatever way it's showing up for you at this new moon. The shadow is released, the collective shadow of the divine feminine, the divine masculine. There's both sides of this. This isn't all a male issue or a female issue. This is about coming to center point, coming back to balance, and asking how I can be a participant of this, an embodiment of this. And then asking the shadow what needs to be seen. What is my projection into this experience? I have been Dr. Ford. I have been the woman who says I'm terrified of telling my truth. And I have been Judge Kavanaugh saying, you know, this is ridiculous and there's nothing wrong with me, and, you know, and going to the extreme and the certainty. I've been both. And I was raised in an alcoholic family that understands that energy and has been in it and sees it and knows it. And so at this new moon, I want to talk about, as a change agent, rebel, awakener, way shower, you change the room and the discussion by the power of your presence. You walking in to say, here I am, this is what I'm about. Whether you speak it, you be it. So in whitewater rafting, there's an order of leaning in. The person in the front of the boat, or who's captaining in the boat, says, lean in, lean in. It's the call to the crew members to shift their weight over the boat. So if they lose balance, they will fall into rather than out of the boat. So the question at this new moon is, what are you being called to lean into? It may be a product, a service, a client session. What is that for you? And how can you be that person saying, lean in, I've got you. I've got you. You're okay. You're going to make it. Maybe you're guiding the boat. Maybe you're responsible for your tribe, the community you serve. Maybe you're also looking for a crew to join. But here's what I know for sure. After hundreds of astrology readings, each one of us has something that we're here to do. Whether it's the Brett Kavanaugh who we're supposed to rub up against in order to speak our truth, or the committee sitting there saying we're going ahead with it, they're not putting us back in the box, people. They can't. And we may be planting seeds. But don't lose faith. Don't lose hope. Because you have a part in this chorus. So what is my relationship to power? And where was I diminished? Where was my power diminished in living life? And how can I come back into balance? And am I in, those of you who've been with me for a while, I used to talk a lot about being in your own hoop. Now look, when you had abuse or trauma, what happens is that you go outside of your own hoop. If you can imagine standing in a hula hoop on the floor, and that's your boundary point. If you've had any sorts of drama, you know how to push beyond that hoop and go into somebody else's hoop and start to figure out what they're thinking, feeling, and knowing, because as an empath, you have that ability. But the question becomes, that's a choice, and do you want to do it? Now, a week ago, I was listening to this psychic talk about on YouTube about, before Kavanaugh or the hearings had even happened, about going back in time. He was time jumping. He was time jumping, and he had the abilities as an intuitive psychic. He could time jump, and he went back into the room where the experience happened. That is possible. This reality is just what you make it. Some people are very gifted, and those of us who have had dramas are very good with getting outside of our hoop to make us feel safe and secure. But here's the thing. Your safety and security is being in your own hoop of experience. And so there's a balancing energy that happens with the Libra new moon. Where am I in relationship to you? Where have I crossed a boundary? How have you crossed a boundary? And how do I come back to center? How do I come back to center point? And who's in my hoop that I've let in that continues to steal power or tries to steal power? And you can actually go out and look at the holes and see energetically where that hoop of energy has been penetrated by somebody else's energy, and seal those holes back up and elect to do it a different way. And if you need shamanic support, please reach out to me and I will be glad to talk to you about that. So how am I stealing power from another person? Because I'm afraid to lead. So I'm envious. You know, I want what they have, but then I talk about them constantly. And I just ruminate about what they're about and how they're doing stuff and what they're doing and how awful it is or better it is. And, you know, pay attention to how you're talking about yourself this new moon. And that includes being responsible with money and debt-related issues. Is my story in all of my relationships healthy? Is my money story healthy? And if not, what could I do to course correct? Just a little step. Little step. Somebody said yesterday, I think it was Kelly Ray Roberts, maybe if it's somebody here, you know, tell me. But Kelly Ray Roberts said when she's overwhelmed, one of her earlier teachers said, just take a little whelm, not the whole overwhelm, just take a little whelm and figure out what you need to do and how you need to work with it. So the question becomes, what am I seeking at this new moon? And how am I facing the challenges and what's bubbling up? You know, this week leading up to the new moon, you're going to see pretty clear what's been going on and what the new moon is asking of you. And you're certainly going to see it. You certainly saw it last week. And it's going to continue to unfold. We're not out of this until, I'd say, mid-November when Venus goes direct. We're already in it, whether we like it or not. And the other piece of it is we're always in relationship. Now, my experience is quite different than an African American's experience. My experience is different than an Asian person's experience. It's just interesting. And I walked away last week feeling like this is the way the African Americans have been feeling forever, like they're not heard. And so there's a co-creative process going on where we're willing to be able to heal. Because if you are feeling safe and you know what you're about, then you can sit in communion with somebody else and really hear their story. What we were witnessing was somebody who cannot hear another person's story and was dismissive of it. And there's many people of many colors, of many faiths, who have been dismissed. And that suffering or that denial is up in the ethers for clearing and healing. And I want to be part of that. And there was a wonderful HBO special on last night about the honoring the Queen and her I don't know, it's like she's been there for like 68 years or something. But she was honoring the Commonwealth. And I didn't know this, but Meghan Markle's wedding veil was embroidered with all the different flowers from the Commonwealth. I mean, I don't know how many countries there were, but, I just was so empowered by listening to the story and the different flowers and how they were imbued on this wedding veil and the celebration and how she wanted to bring all the communities together. And the fact that there was continuity there that we do not have in the United States. That our systems are there, but the people are in and out, and we're getting to see what need to be changed. And it was just really wonderful because it was honoring all faiths, all colors, all countries in a wonderful way. So if you get to see that on HBO, just sit for a moment and watch. It just was all, I mean, it was really heart-filling for me. I love symbols. I love symbology. I love when the universe speaks to us in sound, symbols, and colors. And so when you ask a question, sometimes it shows up in symbols, or it shows up in colors, or it shows up in a way that you may not really recognize. And I think we're getting, in order to manage or to surf the chaos right now, especially at the new moon, I would ask for a symbol. This is what they told me while I was showering today before the session, to ask for a symbol or a color that wants to work with you during this next new moon. And to understand that symbol or that color is a gift from spirit, and that it wants to play with you and co-create with you over the next 40 days and 40 nights. It's no surprise that the Venus experience is 40 days and 40 nights. There's so many, breadcrumbs in the Bible around these feminine mysteries, the Venus energies. Jesus went into the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. That didn't come out of the air, people. It came from the Venus energy of Venus is the morning star. She rises and then she falls. And when she rises back again, she's gone through her 40 days and 40 nights. Venus going into the underworld reminds us of Persephone's journey. It's a mythological journey of Persephone going to the underworld and coming back with healing solutions, and her mother's grief and quest for finding her daughter. All those energies are encoded within us on a cellular level. And so at this new moon, there's a doorway. There's always a doorway that opens at the new moon. And your invitation is to dance through it. So I wanted to share a bit about what, from a mundane perspective, what the Libra energies are about. But I found this quote: confusion is the hallmark of transition. Confusion is the hallmark of transition. To rebuild both your inner and outer world can be a major project. So if you're in the north, fall is about harvesting seeds for planting next spring. So what you're seeing here and experiencing now, you may be working with next spring. If you're in the southern hemisphere, you're entering into spring, so you're planting the seeds that you gathered up 6 months ago. And there's cycles and rhythms and balance that we are working with around this astrology stuff, and they're asked to bring the night sky and the earth together and honoring the rhythm of the seasons within you and around you. So the question becomes, what were you dreaming and wishing of in late March when you planted seeds at the Aries new moon? And here are some themes for if you want to create a soul collage card around the Libra energies. I am the one who partners. In your birth chart, Libra is the sign. It rules the 7th house. What sign sits there in your birth chart? This is always a dance between self and other. Who am I in relationship to you? Am I the one who is the wife, the partner? What does that mean for you? What did it mean for you when you first got married? How has that shape shifted? Do I have contracts that need to be renegotiated? Because you're different. Heck, 40 years ago, I got married in Venus in retrograde. First of all, my good friend April came to me when she was writing her wedding book, and I said, oh, I've been married, like, I don't know, it was at that point 30 something years. And I said, oh, I'll volunteer for, a case study in your book. And she looked at our chart and she said, you have Venus retrograde. And I started laughing. I said, well, what does that mean? She said, well, sometimes it's a real challenge in the chart when you get married under a Venus retrograde. And I started laughing. I said, it's always been a celebration for both Rich and I. Hey, look, 1978, Venus was retrograding in Scorpio, and I decided to get married. And I can tell you that me meeting Rich unlocked my first house of self. It was the first time I felt safe in the world. I had somebody who saw me and heard me, and he still sees me and hears me. Last week when I was sitting in Einstein's and this despair washed over me. I talked about it on Facebook. This despair was like oozing out. And I was like, wow, that's new. And I was like, and he just looked at me. He goes, it's going to be a day of crying, isn't it? And I said, yes. And he goes, you'll be okay. You'll be okay. It couldn't have happened. That wouldn't have happened. My tears scared him so bad at one point. I was too spiritual. So what I want to say about is that you want to go back in and you want to look at the partnership agreements that you may have set up that may need to be renegotiated. I am the one who compliments. I am the one who compliments. Think of Ginger and Fred dancing in sync. The Libra balances and that dance and being so collaborative with the other person that you move in sync. You know how to move. And both parties must take responsibility for the enjoyable relationship. I am the one who takes responsibility for my shadow. I am the one who takes full responsibility for my shadow. Again, the projection and the veil and seeing through the fog. I am the one who balances the energy of fairness, including equality, the appreciation of both opposite viewpoints, negotiation. It also rules Venus. People who are counselors have a very strong Libra energy. It allows in the law of allowing. It invites in the law of allowing. And Venus also rules the principle of beauty and harmony. And there's a sense of wanting to create harmony in the world and getting inspired by the disharmony. One of the things, Steve Jobs was a genius, but he was a genius because he just didn't focus on the tech. He took calligraphy classes. He took classes that inspired him in college, that those later came to be how the mouse and the Apple computer was created with such fluidity and didn't look like the Microsoft PC, because he imbued that sense of beauty into his creations. And that's what Libra affords you, the ability to imbue beauty into what you love. And it has to do with teamwork, giving and taking. Is somebody taking too much from you? Are you giving too much, the process of overgiving? And it's about one who refines, refining what you want, how you want to do it, spa, seeking beauty in the world. Is this create harmony for me? Do I really want to do it, or is it done? Am I complete? Now, the shadow issues of Libra, is I am the one who is codependent. I am the one who is lost relating to you. I've lost my identity. I'm so used to people pleasing and saying yes to you, I've lost myself in the process. I need you is dependence. Independence is I don't need you. But here's the thing. Libra is about interdependence. I will not cast my shadow on you. I will own my shit and come from that perspective and speak my truth about it. I am the one, another shadow issue around Libra and Venus is I am the one who is left behind. I am the one who was left behind. It's time to ask yourself, what parts of me did I abandon to be in relationship with you? Why did I do that? What's here? How does that part of me want to communicate? Like my artist within, I had left her sitting on the curb. I had decided that business was important than creativity. And so I had abandoned my creative artist self to be in the world in a way I thought other people wanted me to be. So I built this business up. My success was my business, when in reality, it was an empty well that I kept going to that didn't feed me. And from Elaine, in the Seinfeld episode, I am the one who judges and who is the bad breaker-upper. I am the one who ends a relationship by saying mean things that people don't mean, but means them. Look for ways you've been judged by another person because they weren't willing to own their own stuff and they've projected it on you, or ways you're judging other people because you haven't been ready to look at your own projections. So as the sun moves through Libra and we approach the new moon, you're going to start to see the doorway. And at the moment of the new moon on October 8th, you're going to be able to make 3 wishes around the Libra energy for you, depending on where Libra is in your birth chart. You want to ask, what's here? Where am I in relationships? What's causing me confusion? And what am I called to create from that confusing place? So with that, I'm going to open up and see if you want to ask a question or have a share or celebration. If you want to unmute yourself before we do the power song, certainly you can just do that. So if you want to mute yourself, there's a little mute button up in the upper right-hand corner.
Hi, Michelle.
Yeah.
Hi, it's Ida.
Hi, Ida.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
I'm just talking about relationship and how all the shit is coming up this month's coming up. I've noticed something recently which is very interesting when you're talking about this, and I've started a new job and I've noticed a pattern in myself that I have actually had for a very, very long time, and I'm not too happy about it. And I find that so I'm going to take over someone else's job, and she's doing a brilliant job right now at decorating these showrooms, which will be a part of my job. So I'm comparing myself to this young, really confident young girl, and I feel her. Well, I find myself thinking that, oh my gosh, she must be thinking that I'm doing all this, what I am doing, which is not what she would do. She would change my stuff afterwards sometimes. But she's, oh my God, I feel her being judgmental about me and maybe talking about me behind my back. And this feeling is really intense because I start getting a little bit paranoid.
Okay.
right? And suddenly I realized, I've had this feeling so many times before, and it's really intense. So it's just a pattern that I've discovered, and that I will have to work with. But it's bringing up so much insecurity in me, and I find it really fascinating when you're talking about this at the new moon. So it kind of brings up that for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you a supervisor to her, or is she on an equal level with you?
No, I will be replacing her when she leaves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So at this point, we're equals.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you
So
might, yeah, you might want to, if it was me, I would sit and journal about, so from an access consciousness place, are you taking on her energy? Are you going out past your hoop and taking on her energy and trying to figure out what she's saying? Like, are you so empathic?
I actually don't know.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a different question. What if you didn't? What if you do know?
If I do know.
Truth. Do you have the ability to be in somebody else's world and try and figure out what they're thinking?
Yes.
Okay, that's a truth. Okay. Okay. Truth. Have you been in this anxious place before?
Yes.
Okay. I would go back. I would ask where this started, and then do journaling about it and say, okay, thank you for the gift of healing. And I no longer need to do this.
Right.
And then after you're done journaling, come to the Forge or the Initiate Retreat forum and then tell me what you found out.
Okay.
Okay. Does that feel light?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And one of the things you said is, should America become a monarchy? No, I'm not. No, I'm not saying that. But after about 2 years of seeing this place not really function very well, I like looking at it and going, wow, that is a breath of fresh air. I'm like, this is what a leader actually does. She actually pulls people together and is kind and considerate to other people. And it was just really, like, we are being inundated by drama here. And it was just such a breath of fresh air to see what a consistency looks like and what the potential is and how people can come together and co-create together.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
one of the things that is happening right now is, so one of the things that is happening right now is that the United States of America is having their, I don't know whether it's Pluto return, but it's some return. I think it's Pluto. Yeah, I think it's Pluto. It takes 248 years for Pluto to come back. And Pluto's not an easy energy to deal with. Pluto takes things apart in order to put it back together. It's the first time Pluto's been in Capricorn since the American Revolution. Hello. So we are looking at systems that we've had in place. And so I find it really fascinating that a lot of us are thinking is, the chaos, and the chaos is like, oh my gosh, it needs to go back to normal. Like, is there a new normal? And what do we want it to look like? And so there's this sense of, I really enjoy when I find something that is heart-centered to really just go into it and experience as a presence, so I can remember what that feels like. Because right now, that muscle memory, even though Obama was there, that muscle memory is not in the immediacy. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And and somebody said, that's funny, the quotes. Anyway, so, you know, I, for me, the feminine is rising up. It's wanting it's wanting tending to, it's wanting its own expression. It's been put into the sidelines, into the dark, into the shadow for such a long time that it's now being asked, okay, how do you want to play? How do you want to be in the world? So that's my thing. So thank you, Ida.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Okay, any other questions or ahas before I start the power song? Okay.
Hi, Michelle.
Yeah. Maria. Oh, hey, Maria.
So when you said don't lose hope, it was a big aha because this came up in therapy for me last week, talking about being seen and being heard and how I wasn't and I wasn't given what I wanted and how it comes up now and how basically I lost hope back then. I give up and I still do it with people. If I get a sense that they don't get me, I give up.
Okay.
So I don't try to explain myself or convince them, or which I think a lot of times serves me well, because what's the point? If I'm talking, what was that code you use? What was that language? Unicorn language?
Yeah, the unicorn language. Yeah.
They're not going to get it.
Yeah.
But I think other times I'm too quick to just hide.
So did you know you lost hope?
I knew, well, not in those terms. I knew that I do that, but not hope. The word hope, when my therapist said that, I was like, oh, wow.
Okay. So what if, I'm going to invite you and I think a lot of us are feeling hopeless right now, like we're fighting against a system that doesn't want to hear us, see us, know us. We're not going away, but there is a sense of despair and hopeless. Like, if this doesn't work, it's never going to work. So
I don't feel hopeless.
Okay.
I just give up on people.
Okay.
I guess. So maybe I lose out on partnerships and relationships.
Okay.
Just a thought.
Okay.
Or maybe I do become hopeless, I guess. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No. I think it's something that wants to be unraveled.
Yeah. Yes.
And until you name it, you can't unravel it. So I'm celebrating the fact that the word hope is here, and there's an unraveling happening. The other piece I wanted to ask you is, when I start to sing the power song, if you can ask your 5-year-old where she put hope.
Okay.
And maybe journey to your teacher and ask, what's the energy of hope? Is it a color? Where did I put it? And what does it want to tell me, teach me right now?
Okay.
Does that feel doable?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I do think that part of the experience with Obama, and so I'm going to talk American now. One of the things that Obama ignited in 2008 was a sense of hope and change.
Yeah.
And that a lot of people bought into that hope and change and then were disappointed. And if we're a fast food fast track society. We expect our needs to be met, and that I'm going to drive through McDonald's and get my hope nurtured, satisfied. I'm going to get my hope restored. You know, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking about the American people. That when it doesn't play out, they go, well, you didn't do it. I'm going over here. And so they go to the other extreme, which is about polarity. And when we're caught in a polarity, we're caught in the chaos. And there's an ask there of how do I hold the center point and understand both sides and understand my perspective of it, so I can come back into center.
Yeah. Because
I don't want to go throw myself over here, nor do I want to throw myself over here. And you know, I'm not going to throw myself over to Obama, nor am I going to throw myself over here to Trump. It's like there's something bigger happening, and I want to be part of the solution of it. I don't want to get caught up in the problem of it.
Mm.
And so if there's an energy of hope, last week it was despair for me. And I just sat with it and really just gave it a presence.
Mm.
And I just let it show up. And you know, I cried for a couple hours on and off. And then I started asking, well, what do you want to create with me?
Mm.
How do you want to create? You know, it's a teaching. There's a learning here that wants to be expressed.
Mm.
So, thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to start the power song. I'm going to bet in the speaker view. So if you've never been with me before, this is a healing song from my allies. I do speak in tongues. I quit delivering power songs in English about 20 years ago because people get caught up in the words, but when they hear the sounds are healing. And so what I offer to you is this power song around the Libra New Moon energies, and allow yourself to be and ask for a symbol, color, or sign, maybe an animal. I don't know how it's going to show up for you, to work with at this new moon, at this Libra new moon. So with that, what I'd ask you to do is stop multitasking. If you're driving in the car and listening to this later, I want you to stop the recording and allow yourself to get into sacred space. So. So at the sound of my voice, you're aware of everything that unfolded during this experience. During the song, you may have felt like you have received a healing. You may have had ahas. What I invite you to do is you come back into the room, into the body that you now own in this earth time, to be here now, to be present with the energies of Libra and Venus, and what does she want to tell you around this new moon. So as you hear me, you start to wiggle your toes, you start to just come back. And I would suggest that you journal about the experiences. You can certainly come to the Forge on Facebook, my community with Paula and a bunch of others, vision keepers that are here. We're all there and we're ready to hear your story and to hear your celebration ahas and what's going on for you with this new moon. So you can meet me at the Forge. Go to either friend me. If you've never been with me before, you can just friend me and I will add you to the circle. And I thank you for joining me today. We are in profound times and your voice is needed, your presence is needed. So thank you. Good night, everybody.